I'm your host, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. This is the Roundtable. Tonight we have a coast-to-coast roundtable, kind of a square, actually. We have New York City, Mr. Tom Mcallister. Good evening, sir.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, always a pleasure. And hey, be sure and give him a follow on Twitter. You can find him at defends_com. And myself on Twitter at Stephen Vanover. Tonight we got a heck of a show, a lot to talk about. And at the most interesting thing going on right now, Tom, your subject that you brought to the table, but I love it. You're talking about the big series tonight between the Lakers and the Blazers, right?
Yes. The Lakers came in. The Lakers got the number one seed in the NBA restart, whatever you want to call it. But the playoffs are starting, and they are matched up with the Portland Trailblazers. Now, if you've been watching any action in the NBA bubble, if you see Damian Lillard playing right now, he's playing phenomenal. He's playing out of his mind, put up 60-plus point games. Also, too, when you look at the Blazers roster, it's not just Damian Lillard, okay? They have help in C.J. McCullough. They have Carmelo Anthony. They got Jusuf Nurkic as a center. And it's like, you know what? If you're the Los Angeles Lakers, you do not want to play the Blazers in the first round. They come in, they're playing great, and I think Lillard would be a tough matchup for the Lakers, and he could easily take over a game, end a series. And there's also no home court advantage for the Lakers. So this is going to be a very interesting first-round series.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. And then also the Lakers themselves, as well as the Blazers are playing in the bubble. The Lakers are almost the opposite. I mean, how all the pundits right now are describing these guys are, well, they're going to be able to turn it on, once the playoffs hit. Or don't worry, they're pros. They've got too much talent. They're going to be all right. They say things like that. When that's how your team is being talked about, and you're facing a team that's a buzzsaw right now, I think you've got problems.
And I think also, too, you have, LeBron is paired up with Anthony Davis, and with that, they're already talking about where Davis is going to go next year. They're not even talking about this series. So, how can you trust someone if they're fully committed? There's all these whispers about, well, he's waiting for his big money contract, and it's not with this team right now. And usually right now in the NBA, this would be the summer of his free agency. But he had to put that on hold because of all this. They want to extend the playoffs, and it's kind of like with him, if you're Anthony Davis, you could be like, you know what? If it happens, if they don't win a championship, Anthony Davis won't be blamed. LeBron will get all the blame for it. He is kind of the GM too. But it's also like Anthony Davis could be like, you know what? Let me find somewhere else where I can win a championship. He could do like Kevin Durant did. Hell, he could maybe even sign with Kevin Durant. He could get Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Davis in Brooklyn. Just throwing it out there, not saying it's going to happen. So those are kind of certain things to worry about because Damian Lillard could be the scorer that could take over a series.
Oh yeah, and they don't have to have the talent to make it all the way to the end. All the Lakers have to worry about, do they have the talent to keep it going right now? And I think so. I mean, they are playing above their skill level to a degree, but basketball is a team sport, man. I mean, yeah, sure, 3 guys can make a difference, but 5 guys or more, because they're kind of deep here, playing with a pretty nice little rotation there, they're dangerous, man.
Yeah, it's also, too, I think, Carmelo Anthony has a chip on his shoulder.
Oh, yeah, huge.
Where, he kind of, he came to the Knicks. He actually won a playoff series, which is the equivalent of winning an NBA championship in any other franchise, if you looked at the Knicks under the Dolan ownership. But as time went on, people kind of kicked him to the curb. He hit a big shot in one of these games. So, it's one of the matchups where Carmelo could come in. He might not be able to have a 50-point game, but he could take over and have a nice little spurt, that helps the Trailblazers win a game. And I think it's also important, like we mentioned before, there's no home court advantage.
No.
Everything, these seeds do not matter. You're only traveling back to your hotel room.
And, somebody like Carmelo Anthony, agreed. He's not the Carmelo Anthony he was before. But in some regards, man, he's actually more deadly right now. He has the experience. to play in crunch situations. If you wait and play him at the right time, which is what they did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that he's got the cold, the experience to drain those shots, doesn't he?
He does, and he's not afraid to take the big shot. It's also with him is now he's a complementary piece. He doesn't have to be the number one option. Defenses aren't planning for him, so he could just find his little niche on the court. Whether he could spot it up for a jumper. He also, people underrate him. He is a very good offensive rebounder. He looks a lot stronger than his frame.
He sees the game well. He's a smart player. And that's what I'm saying. Actually now, in certain respects, he's a better player. He's a smarter player. He's positioning himself well. He knows what he's doing. He's being the assassin, the silent assassin. Before you turn around, it's like, damn, that guy beat us. He's one of the reasons they beat us.
Yeah, it's. I just think it's going to be an interesting series because I could see hypothetically, C.J. McCullough or Damian Lillard at the free throw line clinching the series, and LeBron is firing all the members of the Lakers. He fires the coach. He fires the owners. He fires
right there.
Men,
yeah.
He fires the Laker girls. He wakes up.
No, I don't think he'd cross that line, man.
You never know. He might try to bring in new Laker girls. I'm not sure if he'll call back Paula.
Well, it's on him. This is his, and of course, right now the best thing he could do, at his age especially, is to not try to do it all himself. But ultimately, that's what he's going to have to do, isn't it?
Yeah. If the Lakers don't win a championship, it's going to be what did LeBron do wrong? Yeah. But that also comes with the price when you're pretty much given the keys to the kingdom. If you're the primary decision maker, things don't go well, you're the person we got to talk to.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Let's slide into another subject here now, some good news, but still in the NBA portal, at least it began. Some news that broke a couple days ago where the NBA and the NBA Players Union hooked up with Yale University, and they wanted specifically a test that was a lot less invasive than going up the nose. They wanted to be able to use it ideally at the gate so that you're coming in, a pee strip test, if you will, to where, all right, do you have it? Do you not? Right here. Did the rabbit die? And then you either get in or you don't based on that, so that they could create an arena full of people that have all just tested positive for not having the virus, I should say. They just got approved by the FDA a few days ago to move into this final stages of testing. And it looks like they're really getting close. These three entities got together to do this, not for altruistic purposes, of course, but, to fulfill their wallets and to keep the sport going. But great leadership from all the entities involved, and it's going to help the NBA, of course. Major League, it's going to help everything. It's going to help concerts, everything. What do you think about this, Tom?
I think this goes to demonstrate in a very difficult time, both the NBA, led by Adam Silver, and the NBA Players Association, led by Chris Paul, they're able to work together. They're like, listen, protocols. You really haven't heard, you might have heard some complaints about some of the food people got at the beginning of the bubble. But so far, you really haven't heard any complaints about people at the bubble. No one has tested positive. So the system is working. But also, too, to increase the revenue, you got to get butts and seats. So how do you do that? You create a testing. And this is something where the players realize if we get fans in the arenas, we get more money. Same thing with ownership. They're able to work together because, Major League Baseball and the baseball owners had an arduous negotiation. It won't surprise me if they canceled the season.
It was contentious.
It's contentious.
It's still contentious.
The NFL is kind of looking at it like, apparently there are some issues as training camp comes closer and closer. Some players do have concerns, but I think this is the big difference between, the NBA and NHL continue the season during COVID where they got most of their season in. They probably made a profit. They're like, you know what? We could survive off this. While Major League Baseball and NFL, they haven't started their season yet. So that's kind of something where, you know, TV revenue brings in only so much money. They still
Right.
need people in seats to increase their revenue share. So that's kind of something as time goes on. You know, I did also hear the NBA is targeting a February start date in 2021. So you got to wonder, honestly, I'm a fan of seeing 4 NBA playoff basketball games in August. And I think a lot of people are, where it's like, you know what, there really is no competition as much. You know, you can come in, the games are starting at a reasonable hour.
Oh, this is great. This is fantastic. I mean, you know, and we've got some great matchups coming up. When you switch around the league, we were talking about on the other side, the number 1 and the number 8. And the number 8 blew the number 1 right off the floor. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you don't know what's going to happen here. All right. And that's exactly what Milwaukee found out from Orlando Magic, because Orlando Magic steamrolled them.
Yeah, Milwaukee seems to be having problems, similar to everyone's talking about where's Giannis going next. But also, too, remember one of the classical moments where an 8 seed be a number 1 seed. It was in 1999 when the New York Knicks and Allen Houston rattled that shot home against the Miami Heat. And that was a shortened season. That was one of the seasons when it's like, you know what? If the season went on, the Knicks wouldn't have been an 8 seed. So you're going to get a lot of teams who are like, you know what? We weren't healthy. Our guys got healthy. We made a run into the playoffs. You know, we made a run in the bubble. Let's make a run in the playoffs, unless you're the Phoenix Suns who won every game and still go home.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go figure. Okay. All right. Well, let's switch over to the NFL, another sport that is now going, at least in the training camp stages, and different teams are doing it different ways. The Dallas Cowboys have created their own bubble effect there at training camp, where everybody is all in an enclosed environment, so to speak, as best as they can create. And they're going with that. They thought that was really going to help them. It really didn't. The first day pads came on. Gerald McCoy, their big offseason signing, a defensive tackle, he injures his quad, which was what everybody was worried about, was the quad being injured. And as it turns out, he had signed an injury waiver, and they cut him today. So the Dallas defensive line, which is supposed to be this revamped thing because it's so deep in the middle, we're going to be moving DeMarcus Lawrence out to a linebacker like Julius Pepper, all that. So I'm like, oh, man, wait, you know, we got to sign some people here, man, just so they can get on the field so we can practice.
Yeah, it's funny how, you know, the NFL does that. It seems like how many catastrophic injuries happened the first day of training camp. I remember, I think Teddy Bridgewater was one of the casualties there when he was with Minnesota, where it's like, you know, can you make it to the end of the preseason healthy? Yeah. But, I mean, it has nothing to do with McCoy seeing the new photos of Daniel Jones and realizing he's not going to be able to stop him. Nothing to do with that. But
yeah, it was during a film session that
he's like, no, what? Oh, my quads. I don't want to. That Saquon guy.
Oh, look.
But it wasn't because of that. But I definitely think
Caddyshack. Okay.
Injuries are just, you know, it's something that happens with training camp, and you need depth. You need someone to come out of nowhere. That's what a lot of times it happens. But when you really look at, you know, the NFC East where the Cowboys are, all right, Alex Smith is back on the roster. So you got to wonder if he'll even play. I mean, all credit to Alex Smith considering the injury he had, able to come back. It's not something pretty. I give him all the credit in the world for going out there. And, you know, I wish him the best of luck 14 times a year. But also, too, it's you drafted Dwayne Haskins with your number 1 pick last year, but that was under an old GM. So now you kind of got which player do you want to inherit, you know, because a lot of times if you're the new quarterback and the guy in the front office leaves, you're probably not far behind, you know. Yeah,
you know, unless you're a quarterback that's really winging it and winning. And if that was happening, why did that GM leave? It doesn't happen that way very often. Yeah, it happens like this, where the quarterback is not winning, and because the team isn't. All right, it goes hand in hand. So yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Now on the Cowboys side, I think they're going to be all right because their defense this year is their offense.
Yeah, they're out there, you know, hand Zeke Elliott the ball. Dak Prescott playing with no contract, so he wants to have a career year.
Oh, yeah.
I think the name, I think Michael Gallup will replace Amari Cooper as the #1 wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys.
I can see that happening.
With these, I think Cooper is kind of like it seemed like when Gruden traded guys, they did great. And then as time went on, they kind of came back down to earth. So I wonder if Gruden had some type of master plan in that.
I don't know. I don't think there's any doubting Cooper's talent, but it's one thing to be able to work and have a great section of time in a season, but teams get tape on you and they find out what you can and can't do. Mm-hmm. And so teams have countered with him. Mm-hmm. And then he had the injury. And so, all right, it's like in baseball. The first time around the league, pitchers look great, and then all of a sudden they get sent down.
Now, my next question, though, too, is how comfortable are you with the offensive line of the Dallas Cowboys? Do you think, because when I look at the
very comfortable,
I see, could that be the potential weakness?
No. I don't see it as being an all-time dominating force like they had, a few years ago, of course. But no, a weakness? No, not at all. They have too much talent along the offensive line, proven guys that can play. Plus, they brought in some new talent along the offensive line. Joe Looney replaced Fredericks, a year ago, and he did an excellent job. And he's still on the team, and he's playing at a very good level. I don't have any problem along that offensive line. As a matter of fact, they have more guys healthy right now to shuffle around. I'm worried about them not making a decision quick enough. This is a shortened season, the prep area. They need to take these guys, assign them a position, and go. Right now, they're shuffling them around. I don't like that.
Do you think Mike McCarthy's offense would come out and, help out Dak Prescott, or would help out Ezekiel Elliott? Because I think Dak Prescott is lined up to benefit from this more than Zeke Elliott.
Well, who knows if it would or wouldn't, since that's not what we're going to see. We're going to see the more offense, the same thing they've been running. McCarthy's already, acquiesced to that. The main thing where I think Mike McCarthy comes in is what about his other game management skills? Working the clock, make sure you're getting plays in on time, that type of thing. He's got the experience there, so he should be able to handle that. But it's been a few years for him. It would have been nice to have a preseason game to kick a little rust off.
But it's also, too, if you're Dak Prescott, do you think he would be open? Or do you think Dak Prescott has enough years in the league where he's like, listen, give me some free reign. Give me some of the playbook where I'm able to control it.
No, from everything that I've seen with Dak Prescott and watched about how he works in close. He's a very easy guy to work with. He's getting to where he makes some nice calls at the line. They let him do that. They've increased those responsibilities every year. I think that's a process that will continue to evolve, as it does with any veteran quarterback that shows the ability to progress. And he has done that. He's gotten better every year, in my opinion.
So, but then who do you think, we kind of hit on the Redskins a little bit. Do you think the Eagles are even a threat in the NFC?
Let's talk the Eagles, and let's talk the new 250-pound man, Mr. Carson Wentz. 257 pounds, something like that, I think. Mm-hmm. They said he got a dad bod. Now, I don't know if that's muscle or whatever, but supposedly while at home, he said that he was able to really get after the weights. His teammates were laughing, and they were saying, yeah, and the home cooking. So, maybe his guns are up there, but, I guess maybe there's also some pudge going on. So anyhow, he's trying to get the perfect weight to help handle the injury issue, and it is an issue. He didn't, he wasn't real specific about it being an issue, but he's like, hey, I'm trying to avoid injury is what he said. And so this is his latest thing. He slimmed down last season and played at, I think, 217, something like that, 237 at the most. Excuse me. And so now he's definitely beefed up. And he's got some new targets, this and that and whatever. But They've still got, running back situation. It's still a team that after the Super Bowl, instead of coming together, the Eagles never did that because the quarterback that got them there and brought them together was not going to be their starter. And Wentz has not shown the charisma and leadership to capture the team behind him. So it's like, they got, like any team out there, they've got problems all over. But in Dallas, Dak Prescott is their leader, okay? That's what's going on. And New York City, all right, you know who the starting QB is. And he is a leader, all right? He accepts that role. He's good in that role.
Yes.
All right, Washington, you don't have that, do you?
Yeah, well, you look at it, too. It seems like with the NFC East, Carson Wentz is the starting QB, but it's a tenuous relationship. With
not a tenuous position, but a tenuous relationship. He's going to be the starting QB.
Yeah,
but it hasn't gelled.
How good it is. It's almost like you're in a relationship with someone. That other person has a one-night stand and can't stop talking about that one-night stand, and tries to leave you on the side where it's gives you a little inferiority complex.
But you're going to work through it. You're determined to work through it.
You're going to work through it. Yeah. They're paying you enough money. You're going to work through it.
Yeah, you're giving enough money. You're both going to the therapist. It was once a week. Now it's 4 times a week.
Yes.
Right? And
then you find out it was the therapist. No, I'm just kidding. That's what happened in Washington. But those are certain things where Washington, they really don't have an established quarterback right now. The Giants and Cowboys do. The Eagles have a tenuous relationship. But I still think the NFC East is wide open. I don't see that much gap from top to bottom.
It's a 2-team race, according to the pundits. Okay, that's an air quote statement, the pundits. And that they're saying the Cowboys and the Eagles. It's a 2-man race. And I just think that is so freaking incorrect. Go ahead.
I think, though, too, like we talked about before, the Giants, they had a strategy in this year's draft. They wanted to improve the secondary. They wanted to improve the offensive line. Hopefully, Dave Gettleman was able to improve this offensive line. He picked Andrew Thomas, who'll be moved over to left tackle because Nate Solder is opting out. Matt Pert will probably be at right tackle. Draft from UConn. Lemieux from Oregon will probably be an interior lineman. So all of a sudden, you can look at the Giants roster, and they could have potentially 5 starting linemen at or below the age of 25, which is exactly you want if you have a franchise running back in Saquon Barkley.
But they're all badasses, and I'm just going to make one single correction to what your soliloquy was there, and that's that. No, it's not hopefully that they improved the offensive line. They improved them. It's how much. It's how much. Yes. All right? They're better. Absolutely. Right now, hands down. They got a better offensive line coach, and he is a very physical guy. He played physical. He teaches physical. And, oh, my goodness, who do you have that has that ability? Exactly. More than one guy, but the one guy is really a cut above. Everything is coming together there domino-wise. They are better. It's how much better. And then how much better will that make a certain Saquon Barkley?
Yes.
That is what matters.
I think it's also, too, you got to see how the season goes because Joe Judge will most likely get more than 1 year. Gettleman, I think, is more on the hot seat than Joe Judge. The news out of New York was that Joe Judge made his
and why would he be on the hot seat right now? Would it be a certain pick at cornerback? I don't know.
Well, it could be a few picks, but one of the issues – well, I think Gettleman had a good draft. It was just the team – his free agent signings haven't really fleshed out. They did sign Marcus Golden. But the big thing on the New York tabloids was Joe Judge made his coaches run with the players during the opening of training camp, where he's coming in and, he wants to be this kind of like fire and ice guy or this, this fiery guy, kind of like Tom Coughlin, which I think the Giants ownership truly loved. bringing this fire and brimstone and strict discipline.
He's not there to make friends. He's there to be a head coach.
Yeah. So you got to wonder, how well it would go, considering some of the players might be older than him. You got to wonder, the Giants have been in the basement.
That's why it'll work. That's why it'll work. It works with anybody that's an elite athlete at that level when they have a record like that. And like you said, in the basement. Now let's go back to the running game here real quick. You've now got an offensive coordinator that they've already said, we're going to run his offense. I get to use air quotes twice this day already. This is really good. All right.
Yeah, it's something too. Saquon Barkley is entering his third year. He had a great rookie season, was injured a lot in his second season, but I think he still ran for over 1,000 yards. And Saquon Barkley is a multi-talented threat. He could be a threat in the run game and a threat in the pass game. The Giants, they have not a great core. They do have a good core of wide receivers. Darius Slayton was a surprise.
Yes.
5th round pick. He had a big year. Sterling Shepard is a decent wide receiver. Golden Tate was able to make some plays.
He's going to play till he's 40. Golden Tate's just one of those guys that puts it all together, And his game isn't speed at the top. It's craftiness.
And it's also, I think, the interesting person to watch is Evan Engram. He's someone that the Giants kind of he's shown flashes. He has been injured a lot. But if you're a Giant fan, people are kind of waiting for Evan Engram to make the next step. The only thing you got to wonder on defense, too, is the Giants have good interior linemen defensively. They have Dalvin Tomlinson. They got Dexter Lawrence, who I think could be a force if, they got Leonard Williams, who they controversially picked up from a trade in the Jets. If Leonard Williams is able to play like the Leonard Williams the Giants want him to, and Dexter Lawrence is able to take a step forward, all of a sudden you have a tandem pass rush, which the Giants haven't had in years. Then all of a sudden that will make your secondary a lot better because they don't have to cover as long. It looks like the Giants are looking for a number 2 cornerback. We'll see what happens. They did.
It's better than they've been before when they were just looking for a cornerback, okay?
Yes.
But now also with the offense that you're going to get from Jason Garrett, who has this much talent at running back, that is your best defense, much like the Cowboys are going to use their offense. And the running game might not be an offensive scheme that runs super heavy, might not be enough to win you a Super Bowl, but is it enough to win the NFC East? I say it's enough to make you a contender because if your defense gels at all, if, like you say, a couple of these guys step forward, and I think there's the talent there for this to happen. Again, I think it's a wide open division with Washington being the long shot just because there's too many questions to really judge what the hell's going on there. Though they do have talent, especially on defense. That's freaking scary. Sweat is a beast.
That is true. And, the Redskins, it's just I think you kind of look at their ownership, and they've made some horrible choices that have come to light the last few weeks, to say the least.
I think the worst decision by Washington ownership was in the previous ownership when they decided to sell it to Dan Snyder. It's on them. Okay,
yes.
You've got to sell it to somebody that's not going to do this. They do not get off scot-free. No. Shame on them.
I don't think it would ever be this bad. I don't think they envisioned it. But I think you got to put them up with the Cleveland Browns. But I think Cleveland's actually making some headway in getting out of the basement.
They seem to be.
But we'll see what happens. NFC East is wide open. And a lot of interesting running backs. You got Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley. We'll see who steps forward, Daniel Jones or Dwayne Haskins. Will Haskins even be the starter? So it's going to be a fun NFL season, to say the least.
Oh, it totally is. It totally is. And I'm really interested to see the maturation of Daniel Jones because that is going to say so much about where the Giants are going to go in the near future. And also with the Cowboys, but I think in different ways. Because if Prescott blows up, I don't think the Cowboys can afford him. If Jones blows up, He's a giant for life.
Yes. Well, it's also, too, you got to think Saquon Barkley. Do you think he'll probably get a comparable deal to Ezekiel Elliott? I would think when his contract comes up, because he's entering.
He has the talent, but, the one thing he hasn't shown is availability. Ezekiel Elliott has.
Yeah. Ezekiel Elliott has been able to stay healthy. Saquon Barkley.
Now,
yeah.
He has some legal issues from time to time. Whereas Saquon Barkley, I just don't see that happening. That guy is just a straight shooter off the field, man, from everything I hear.
He's put together. Straight shooter like Plexico Burrs.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's also, too, with, I think it's also the Cowboys might not be – who knows? The Cowboys might try to make a move for the number 1 pick and get Lawrence from Clemson.
No telling with Jerry, but I wouldn't be surprised. And he would look at the third-round compensatory pick we would get when Prescott just walks and say, well, look, that's an upgrade from the 4th I spent on him, and he'll call it a victory.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, too. Like, do you think McCarthy will be told by Jerry Jones to be like, listen, we don't want Dak to have a monster season because we want to re-sign him. We kind of want to hurt his value. Could you see something like that happening?
I just don't know. I just don't know. Generally, Jerry believes in a player until he doesn't. Mm-hmm. But he also lately has learned salary cap discipline from the people around him. So there's a tug of war going on inside the Cowboys organization. Right now, restraint has shown to be the leader. Because as good as Prescott has been, he's missed some opportunities to take this team to the next level.
He did. When Dak Prescott came in his rookie year, so pretty much it's like picture going to Thanksgiving dinner, and all you got to do is turn on the oven. He pretty much had Hall of Famers galore. He had guys in their primes. It
was a heck of a season. Heck of a season.
And he couldn't cash in on that. So it's going to be interesting, though, too, because also who else is a potential free agent at quarterback? Cam Newton?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's signed a 2-year deal. He actually signed a 2-year deal, I think.
A 2-year deal? What about, I think –
I'm not 100% certain about that.
I believe Jameis Winston signed a 1-year deal.
Who cares?
With New Orleans. But it's also, too, if you're Jerry Jones –
If I was in the NFC East, I would pay Winston's salary if you'd make him your QB.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that would happen. He's a little turn. But you know what? That's a sexy pick. Jerry Jones wants to win the press conference.
Oh, that's true.
He wants to make the sexy pick. He wants to draft the basketball player out of Baylor, Rico Gathers, and put him at tight end.
I actually like that pick. I don't like when he does that kind of reach in the 1st and 2nd round. Mm-hmm. But when he does it with the 6th or 7th round pick, okay, Jerry, that's all right. That's where you swing for the fences, is down there, bud. Okay.
Yeah. So Jerry Jones always wants to swing. He wants to win the press conference.
Well, hey, change it a little bit. One guy I want to give a shout out to before we get away from the Cowboys. On the Cowboys defense, they signed a free agent from the Raiders. He's actually been with a few teams, the Panthers, et cetera, but Darryl Worley. And he's a big, rangy defensive back. He played pretty well for the Raiders the last 2 seasons, came up with 5 interceptions. He gets his hands on the ball. He can play safety. He's got size at cornerback. He played on the outside with the Raiders the last 2 seasons. He can cover. And he's not being asked to be a number 1 or a number 2. He's a number 3. He's a wild card. They can move him around. I think he's a great addition. I think they can play some position versatility and some scheme versatility with some odd things, because he can move up and play, that light linebacker role, that elephant role, that type of thing. So I think he's a guy to watch and to keep an eye for. And let's see how creative they're going to get on defense. They said that they were pulling out the stops and that they were going to let these guys loose, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So, this is a guy to watch.
I think when you mention that name, that guy will match up with the tight ends of the NFC East. You have Evan Engram.
Ooh, great call.
Who's the tight end for Philadelphia? Kelsey, is it?
Yeah, he wishes, right?
No,
Yeah, Chelsea. Actually, they've got the two of them, and it's the second one that's actually rated higher. Darn it, I can't remember their names right now.
yeah,
But
but
the
that
one
could
guy's
be,
blazing fast.
yeah, that could be one guy where it's like, know what? Let's put him at tight end, cover up that one.
Well, that
Dor-
makes a lot of sense because he's got the size to do it, and then he used to play on the outside, so he's got enough speed to hang with these guys.
Yeah, and it's also too, you got, as we mentioned before, Saquon Barkley is a threat in the passing game too, so you can match him up with Ingram or Barkley.
Man, I'd rather get matched up with a tight end than Saquon Barkley. Man, that guy's scary. I mean, he's got soft hands. He runs a nice routes, and not just the short ones. You can put that guy downfield a little bit,
Yes, you can. You can.
So I mean, and Garrett, people don't remember when Garrett was just the offensive coordinator. He was the toast of the league, man. I mean, everybody was trying to hire, not everybody, but he had like head coaching offers, the Ravens, et cetera. They had to make him an assistant coach just so they could stop the offers, stop him from going.
Is that kind of what the Jets did with Bill Belichick? Made him assistant head coach or something?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they did. So he doesn't have to focus on anything else, man. He gets to focus just on the offense. I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does because you guys have some versatile pieces. You got Golden Tate, who's a savvy veteran. You got Slay, who, man, I don't know what turns this guy's light on or off, but if you can figure out how to flip that switch, that is a dangerous weapon to have, especially since he's not a number one.
No. Well, teams might game. When you look at the Giants wide receivers, like, who is their number one? You really can't. I don't know if that might be a good thing, might be a bad thing.
It is if you use it that way. And I think you guys actually did that a little bit last year. It just happens naturally, man, because you don't have that number one to go to. Dallas Cowboys actually kind of have that problem, but for a different reason. They've got two number ones right away in Gallup and
Cooper.
excuse me. Who's that other guy? Right? Cooper?
Cooper?
Yeah. I mean, these guys are huge talents, and I think Gallup is actually the more disciplined route runner. I think he's the guy that can put it all together more than Cooper. I think Cooper has more raw physical talent.
I think when you look at their careers, I think Cooper is on the downswing and Gallup is on the upswing. And I think teams will probably come out and game plan more to stop Cooper than they would Gallup. So that's kind of something to see how that goes going forward.
And that should be part of Gallup's game, and they should help each other as they progress through their careers. I think that this is a beautiful matchup. And then who knows? Yeah, everybody's saying, wow, they got three number one receivers because of CeeDee Lamb. And I love the CeeDee Lamb pick. Do not get me wrong. I absolutely love it. But he's not a a WR1 in the NFL. He's just not. And until you prove that you are, you're not. And he's got a lot to learn. He missed a lot of mini camps. He missed a lot of training. He missed a lot of preseason games he could have worked. It used to be the 3-season rule, but occasionally you'll get a wide receiver that'll blow it up, in the first season. There have been a couple of Hall of Famers that have done it. But, he's a really talented rookie wide receiver.
Well, and it's also, too, he's not the number one, which I think is another place where like he can come in, he can slowly develop, where his raw talent can maybe make up.
I think they've got the best wide receiver cadre in the NFL, unless you count tight ends. If you throw in tight ends, then all of a sudden it becomes a question. They've got Jarwin, who I like a whole lot. As a matter of fact, he's a better wide receiver than he is a blocker. But they have talent behind him that I like as well. But there's other guys around the league, specifically, with the Giants, with the Eagles, et cetera, that have more raw talent.
What about the Chiefs? I think.
I wasn't going to mention that.
Yeah, it's like you got Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. It seems like you, me, and Nate could go out there and be all pro wide receivers.
Seriously, man. I mean, it would be hilarious for me to line up on the line and watch the DB back up. Okay. Please throw me a screen so I can die and get off the field. Okay. It's fantastic, the talent that the Chiefs have. But I still like the pure raw talent of the Dallas wide receiver core. When you take Gallup and Cooper, the talent that they have, and there's no doubting CeeDee Lamb's talent. The guy only lacks experience, right? And, I think by the end of the season, he's going to be really dangerous.
Well, I think it's also, too, you have Gallup and CeeDee Lamb under control for at least four more years, because Gallup is in year number 2. Was Gallup a first or second round pick?
Second.
So
first. Oh man, I don't even remember. I don't want to say. I'll have to look that up.
So that's kind of something too. So they have him under control for about 2-3 more years. So this could be something, as they can kind of, I guess, phase out Cooper when CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup are coming about. And that's also something else to look at too. If you're the Dallas Cowboys and you have questions at quarterback, you'd be like, hey, you know what? Well, if we do get a new quarterback, we do have a nice little insurance policy in Gallup and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, he was in the 3rd round, actually. So that's a hell of a pick. Yeah, I agree with your assessment there. And they are in beautiful positions because of where Cooper is in his career arc. And it just makes total sense for them. The whole lineup, the way that they're set, I think there could be a transition towards the end of this season where Gallup becomes the one that they're game planning more for. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a matter of they're going to have to game plan for both of them. I think these two guys are going to be a 1-2 punch that are just going to screw you up. It's like, if you want to double this one, okay. You want to double this one? Okay. You can't double both. Not with Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. And, hey, by the way, we'll toss CeeDee Lamb out there, let him run a late drag across the middle.
Yeah, that's one of the things, too. That's why the pass rush is important. How do you neutralize all 3 of those guys? You get to the quarterback as many times as possible.
True. And, again, I love the offensive line. And then also Dallas should be taking advantage and setting this all up with a nice running game. Mm-hmm. But both Gallup and Cooper are willing blockers and are skilled at it. I love them for that. That's been a tradition with Dallas wide receivers throughout the seasons. Michael Irvin, of course, took it to a really nice level. Some would say too far.
Yes.
Yes. But it's going to be a fantastic season. It's going to be a lot more training camp news coming around. I'm looking for some more signings. And also, we still don't know where the best free agent in the NFL is going to sign right now, do we? And I'm talking about, don't clown around. Talk to me what's going down.
I think with Jadeveon Clowney, he'll probably sign. Yeah, I think I really think Clowney's a good player.
Where could he go in the East that would be the best fit?
Dallas needs a pass rusher. It's a sexy pick. But would Jerry Jones?
Every team out there needs a pass. Well, except Washington. Washington really is set, man.
Yeah, but it's also too. It's a very sexy pick, which lines up with the Cowboys' brainstorm. But I've never seen a defensive player live off one play. Where he's lived off that one play in the bowl game against Michigan.
He's made the most of it. I'll grant you that. I'll grant you that.
Maybe,
but he's been productive, and as opposed to looking at what you don't have, I think with Clowney you need to look at what you do have.
Yeah, he's good.
He's been productive. He's good.
Yeah, he's good, but he's not elite.
No, he's not. He's not super elite. He's just right there in between good and elite. He's right in that. He wants
elite money.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think he'll end up signing another one-year prove-it deal. That's why I think it could be with Dallas. That's why I think the Dallas Cowboys are talking to him right now. They cut their guy off waivers for a reason because they had him on a solid contract. They could have just got him. All they saved was some guaranteed money down the road, which they're going to pay to somebody anyhow. So they're not really saving the money. They're just not paying it to him. Well, if they're wanting to get out from under that, they want to pay it to somebody. Mm-hmm. All right. So, what's his name? Excuse me now. Gerald McCoy gets to keep a $300,000 signing bonus. That's it.
Yeah.
So they can eat that. Yeah, they say $3.2 million off the cap right now. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking somebody like Clowney, he'd like that.
Yeah. He'll be, but I do see Clowney. He might be like, you know what? Let me do the 1 year prove it deal. But it's also, you don't know how the NFL financials are going to be next year.
Yeah,
so
a lot of teams don't, and they're using that as leverage. I mean, they're not as bad as baseball, but they're nowhere near the NBA. It's night and day difference between the NBA and NFL leadership. All right, Tom, let's wrap it up for tonight. Hey, everybody listening out there, be sure and hit that subscribe, hit that notify button. We really appreciate it. Follow Tom there on Twitter. You can see it in the corner of his screen. Follow me on Twitter, the same. Thank you. And until next time, listen like you play with intensity. Bye now.